Okay, so streaming on YouTube, but you guys can see me live in class. Yes, you guys can all verify sharing my screen. You can see my screen. Cool. Um, we're moving on currently into chapter 12, which, as your textbook says, that is Entity Framework Core, EF Core. Entity Framework, as we are soon going to learn, is how we're going to tie in our C# code into SQL Server database tables. All right, Entity Framework is referred to as an ORM. Have you heard this before? ORM. Object. You guys know C# has classes and objects, so you know what an object is, right? Relationships. We're going to talk about relationships and mapper, ORM, right? So entity, if you just do the good old Google search on Entity Framework, the first thing you see is that EF is an ORM. That's a bunch of letters. Doesn't mean a whole lot to us. But if you stop and think, do you know what an object is? Of course, if you understand object-oriented programming, you know classes, you know objects. Relationships, as we understand database tables have relationships with them, specifically relational databases. Literally relational, because what's NoSQL? NoSQL means there's no relationships potentially between the tables, right? So Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, these are database systems that are based on tables, and these tables have relationships between one another. Okay, so you know that SQL Server has tables, and these tables have relationships. That's what's referred to as a normalized database. Normalized database, a relational database. Relational database is as old as, it goes back to like the 50s, right? This concept of like breaking your data into different tables and then linking the tables together. And then at the end of the day, these relationships help build data integrity. Okay, there's why are relational tables good? Is because it helps our data integrity. Meaning you don't need to store the same customer more than once, right? If you're a customer in the system, okay. So we're going to work with Entity Framework. Entity Framework is an object in C#. It helps map our objects to the table relationships in our database. So our C# to our tables, okay? And that's where we're going. Now, when it comes to the kinds of relationships, that's often referred to as cardinality, right? When you're drawing these relationships on paper, they basically have three kinds of relationships. These two are really the more common, the many-to-many relationships and the one-to-many relationships. Okay, and so we're going to go through this exercise of drawing a database diagram. And when we're drawing this database diagram, we're going to draw some lines between the tables that helps us understand the relationships between the tables. This diagramming process, right? Creating the ERD. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to create this diagram that displays data. And what is a diagram used for? A diagram is used for communication. Okay, a diagram, this ERD is used for communication. If you guys were building software for someone else, you're asking that someone else, what is the information I need to collect? What information is important? What information is not important? Okay, and let me put it on a piece of paper. Let me put it on an image, and let's discuss it so we can both look at the same image and speak the same language. Right, Tim, yesterday you were talking about all technical jargon that exists, right? Would you be surprised to find out that developers speak in a technical jargon that the average Joe doesn't understand? Absolutely not, right? It is our biggest criticism of developers. You think you're just talking normal, but you're talking over somebody's head. Okay?
We speak like 10 different languages.
That's right. Well, I mean, we learn all these vocab, all this term, all these, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java, C#, Link, just even the languages themselves, not even getting into the languages and all their terms. Okay? We speak over people's heads. So what does a diagram do? A diagram communicates. Explain like I'm 5. What is the information that's important? Oh, student first name, student last name, student PIN. Okay, what information about a student? We're going to draw a box around this. And I put a little, like a joke in the Discord chat. There's a YouTuber, Primogen, who's a really big YouTuber, and he's like criticizing like software engineering. Like, this is a big, prestigious field. And it's like, what do? We draw boxes and put little labels on things. And like, this is some big, prestigious thing that we're doing. We're drawing boxes and lines. And what are we doing here?
Change the color of buttons.
Change the color. Yeah. So the point is, but he's criticizing this process of creating this ERD. Okay. And I understand the criticism because it's kind of like, what are we really doing here? We're not building anything. We're not coding anything. But it's actually kind of important to understand this diagram is a communication tool. Okay, that's why I think the diagram has value. Because I can look down and I don't understand, Liam, you got some video game project, I don't understand it. I don't understand the video game, I don't understand it. But you and I can both sit down on a piece of paper and you can describe to me what are the things that are important, the entities that are important, and then what are the attributes of those entities, right? So I can begin to understand the information that's important in your project. Okay, it's a communication tool. And I think communication is important, so much so because we traditionally are terrible at it. We're terrible at communication, okay? So for my project, okay, and I'm going to demonstrate creating one of these ERDs. Totally unrelated to you guys, but this ERD is creating ERDs, it's such a common thing to do in school. All computer science majors, as far as I know, this is a very standard part of building software in school. And you say, well, is it part of building software in the real world? It depends. Small companies, they move fast, they break stuff. They don't want to take time to draw pictures. Okay? More traditionally, small companies are just like, let's build. They don't want to draw pictures. Okay? Bigger companies, bigger pieces of software, a little bit slower to move. They need to really architect their software. Let's build a blueprint of our software. Right? Let's think about our software before we just start nailing stuff together. Okay? Like if this was carpentry, small companies just start nailing stuff together. They don't have blueprints. They just, okay, we're going to build a house. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. We've done this before. Let's build another house. Okay? Big companies, they want to operate from blueprints. They want to plan. They want to talk about it. They want to whiteboard this stuff. Like a lot of times these boxes, you're doing this on a whiteboard. Okay, what are the important boxes and what are the important things in the boxes? No, you think so? I don't think so. What's going on? What do you think? Okay, let's move this. Let's change that. Okay, we don't need this. Erase that. Okay, let's update that. Okay, that's a common kind of like whiteboarding process, right? That can be done for larger pieces of software. So is this done in school? Absolutely. Is this done in the real world? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And just what I was starting to say is that probably, you rewind this clock to about 2011, 14 years ago, roughly. I made some silly process explaining ERDs, like 14, 15 years ago, whatever it was. I put it out on YouTube. It stood the test of time. It still gets like hundreds or thousands of views all the time, just because people are learning this process and it's still being done, right? It's still relevant. And that kind of surprises me. Anyways, so we're going to have these different kinds of tables. Any questions about all this gibberish that I just said? Make sense? All right. You guys have done this a little bit before, right? You've created an ERD for me, I think going back to chapter 4. But I want to talk about some things here. And so I'm going to use a simple project here, like an online course management system. Some of our users, you can be identified as an instructor or a student. So we're going to have users. Okay, that's kind of the first thing I say here is that you have to have an ASP.NET users table. Okay, and I think everyone in here has done this. If you spin up a project, and I've done this real quick. If you spin up a project and all you do is you select Microsoft Identity as the startup project and you create a user, it'll create, these are all of the what are called .NET identity tables. So, here's a simple MVC app, and I just want to show you the users table is right here. I registered a user. Raise your hand if you've done this. Raise your hand in my class if you've done this. 2, 3, 4. You guys over here? Tim, have you done this?
Oh, yeah.
You've spun up a project with users in it.
Yeah.
You've spun up a project with users in it.
I don't think so.
Okay. So really all you do just to show this process here, you create a .NET Core MVC. Okay, so we're creating MVC. I'll show you the checkbox to checks. Okay. Whatever my project name, I just call it temp. I'll call it temp1. Okay, notice right here, authentication type. Just say individual accounts. Okay, if you selected none already, I'm going to show you guys later on how to retroactively add identity to a project that doesn't have it. But if you're starting a new one and you want identity, if you want a login system built in, you just can select individual accounts. Okay, so that's all I did. If I back out of that, that allows us to register users with the MVC template. Okay, and the reason I'm just showing you this here is just to show you the name of the table, right? So here's a register, here's a login. This is a whole system built into, we're going to have a whole chapter on ASP.NET Identity. Okay, the whole reason I'm showing this is just to show that there is a table called ASP.NET Users, and that's the built-in login system that we are going to use. Okay, and I want you guys, I just want to point something out here real quick. As you're learning login systems, okay, I'm a believer in the process that you guys are learning. Step 1, learn how to build your own. You guys all built your own in the JavaScript class. You built your own login system, right? You encrypted users, you logged in users, you logged out users. You guys have all done that, okay, if you're in 4th semester. Okay. Step 2, use someone else's built-in system like this. This is identity. This is a built-in login system. Learn. Why is this better than the prior? Why is this login system better than building your own? And this is literally the definition of why rebuild the wheel. When you perfect a wheel, when you get a good wheel, do you think this system would be more secure than yours? I do. Do you think this system would be faster than yours? I do. This was built by Microsoft engineers. This was refined over decades by Microsoft engineers. Some of the best developers in the land, right? Not to say it's perfect, it's not. In fact, there's a better system, right? There's a better login system than identity, okay? And that's OAuth, right? OAuth is where you use someone else's login system like Facebook or Google or your Apple account, whatever it may be, okay? So step 1, learn to build your own. Step 2, use a built-in system. Step 3 is really learn to use OAuth. Why is OAuth better? Because at the end of the day, if you store usernames and passwords, you are the vulnerability, right? If your website were to quote unquote get hacked, that's your company's
Reputation.
bottom line. That's their reputation, that's their bottom line, right? We've all heard of companies that quote unquote had data breaches and that information got lost, and guess what? Did they get sued to high heaven? Pretty much every single time. Okay? So realize that storing usernames and passwords is a security vulnerability, and if you could put that off on somebody else, oh yeah, that's what you want to do. Okay? But I still believe in learning each step of the process. So we're doing that in this class. We're learning identity. And again, it is better than what we've done before. I believe that it's better than building your own, but it's not quite as good as learning something like OAuth. And again, the challenge behind learning OAuth, and we can, but the code goes from 0 to 100 real quick, to use your favorite quote from whoever said that quote, right? OAuth is not something you step into in 2 days' time. It takes...
What's the name of it?
Huh?
You said
OAuth. OAuth, yep. Not to say that we can't learn OAuth, but it takes a little bit of time. Okay? All right. So back to what is the table name? ASP.NET Users. Okay, so what is the project? The project did a whole lot of talking. Online course management system. Okay, ASP.NET Identity for instructors and students. Now, your users will have roles, and I could easily see an instructor role and a student role. And so there you go. You've got users, and then those users have roles. So there you go. That's instructors and students. This is something I'll jump ahead to. So when you're designing this, I do have a requirement for you. And that requirement is one-to-many and many-to-many. Okay? Because you got to learn how to code these. These are coded differently. Not only Entity Framework, not only are you going to code these different, what does that mean? You code these kinds of relationships differently in your C# classes. Right? So a one-to-many, to give you an idea, this is actually not that complicated of what's coming. So I'm going to, how do you code a one-to-many? In my case, a one-to-many, a teacher can have many courses. Okay, and just what I wrote down here. Now I know we have identity, and maybe we don't have a teacher class, but for the sake of this example, just how this is going to be coded, I want you guys to imagine there's a teacher class for the sake of this. Well, if a teacher can have many courses, you can imagine a course class. You got a teacher class and a course class. All that is saying is that a teacher has a list of courses. That's all that is. A teacher has a list, a C# list of type, the generic type of course. Yeah, Jamisha. If it's a many-to-many, if a course were to have many teachers, which it doesn't.
But I'm saying that if a course did have
Then you'd have a list of on the other side.
But then it's a many to many, then that's when you get that teacher.
Teacher course. That's right. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay? But for this example, this is not a many-to-many, this is a one-to-many. So the one-to-many is simply a teacher has a list of course and a many-to-many relationship where a course can have many students and a student can have many courses. Right? So there's your many-to-many. So this is such a weird process, guys. I want you to, you got to stop and think about, okay, first off, what are entities? I think this is a good part. This is something that I think is concrete in my mind, but I guarantee it's not concrete in your mind. What are entities? Because this is an entity relationship diagram. So what are entities? And I would answer that. Okay? Is everyone listening? All right. Zone in on this. What are entities? We all took English class, right?
Yeah.
And in English class, we learned about like verbs
And nouns.
and adjectives. Okay? Well, if you remember, what is a noun?
Person, place, or thing?
Person, place, or thing. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Right? So, this marker is a noun. It's a thing. Right? This fire sauce from Taco Bell is a thing. A physical thing in the real world. A thing.
And if you think about it, you can give properties to those things.
And then these things are our entities. Okay? The people, the
A
teachers,
user.
the courses, are
User,
people.
yeah.
The people. All right? A course is a thing. A college course
A
is
concept, yeah.
a thing. So, this is software design, right? When you're designing software, you draw these ERDs, you have entities. What is an entity? An entity at the end of the day is a noun. If you remember from the English class, a noun is a person, place, or thing. I think they also say like an event.
Something.
Does that sound right? That's where it gets weird. Like, oh yeah, a noun is just these things. Oh yeah, by the way, it's also an event, right? So okay, again, I'm just going back to like, hey, we're learning software design. Where do you start, right? If you're taking a software design course, they're going to tell you start with a written problem. You have to write down what they call the problem domain. Like if I'm building software for Kiernan, I'm going to say, Kiernan, write down the problem you're trying to solve. On paper, on Microsoft Word, whatever, write down the problem domain. I want you to describe the problem to me. Because Kiernan, you have a business and I don't understand your business. I can write code, but I don't understand whatever his business. What's your business, Kieran?
Lawn care.
Lawn care. I don't understand it. I'm not an expert. Okay, so write down everything that you need this software program to do. What problem are you trying to solve? So Kieran gives me a 2-page paper with a description. Okay, then what I do, if I'm software engineering, I'm extracting the nouns. Pulling out the nouns, the people, places, or things, and I'm going, Kiernan, do we need to save information about, in a lawn care, I don't know, there's types of grass. Do we need to save information about the types of grass? Yes or no? Kiernan's going to go, no, I don't need to know the types of grass. Okay, but that was a noun, so we don't need that. So we're not going to put a box around grass. Okay? What about lawnmowers, Kiernan? Do I need to save information about the types of lawnmowers? We're having a conversation. Okay, we don't need conversation. Okay, but you've got lawn mowing people. Do I need to save information? Okay, yes, I do need to save information about the different freelance lawn mowers or whatever it may be. Okay, so it starts with a conversation. Write down the problem. Extract the nouns. There's going to be 100 nouns. Right? You pull out 100 nouns and then you winnow them down. You got to say, what are the important nouns that we actually need to save information? And that's like a very general, I mean, that's, if we're not having ChatGPT tell us the nouns, right, which is what we're doing here, we're having AI help us with our nouns, right, that's the process.
Can I interject with something?
Yeah, please.
So something that I kind of learned to help with these kind of problems is whenever I'm thinking about them is whenever I'll like type it out, and even if I'm using like AI, but what I'll do is I'll capitalize anything that I think is a object or a model or something that I will need, and that way I can kind of look back through it, and everything that's capitalized makes me go, that's what I need.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yeah, so you're writing them down as you're writing, you're just identifying the potential.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so I'll say like, you know, a user can put a review for a game, and that lets me know, well, I probably need a user, probably need a review, and probably need a game, you know?
Yesterday, never mind. Let's stay focused. Okay. So to make this diagram, Liam, there are many tools that you can use to draw boxes. That's all we're doing. We're drawing boxes. If you guys remember Balsamic, you can use Balsamic to draw boxes. There's a tool that's free to use. It was called Oomlet. I've used this Oomlet tool.
I've used
Oomlet.
There's Draw.io
There's-
on VS.
We're going to use Draw.io. There's Lucid Chart.
I think you can use Figma technically. I know that's more for wireframing.
There's Lucid Chart. Yeah, I think you're right. Figma. Figma is very popular nowadays. Figma, Lucid Chart, Oomlet. You could use Draw.io. You could use, we're just drawing boxes. You could use Photoshop. Whatever. Can you draw a box? Can you draw it on a napkin? Yeah. Draw it on a napkin. But I'm not very artistic, Ryan. Are you very artistic, Ryan?
Not really.
Can you draw good boxes?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm all squiggly. I'm all over the place.
I mean, I have my iPad that helps me with it. Itself does it.
So where I've landed on this is an extension that look, is this the best answer? For me, I like it. And so if I go on VS Code and I look at my installed extensions, all right, I got Draw.io. And I've used this for like very little amount of time. I'm not the most familiar person with Draw.io. Again, I've used different tools and they all kind of work differently. I like Draw.io, I think. Okay. You can use a different tool. As long as it communicates the same message, that's all I care. Okay. And yes, there are just boxes, but there are also lines, and the lines have meaning, and so you just can't draw any line. Last time I asked you guys to do this, most of you just drew whatever line you felt like. Okay, no, the lines have meanings, the symbols have meanings. You just can't draw any line. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through these different lines. Now, for the sake of this example, I'm going to open a folder that is in somewhere on my hard drive, wherever. Yeah, it's an extension. Yeah. So we're on chapter 12. So I'm just going to put this diagram in chapter 12. And that at least gets me in a folder so that when I do this, why don't we take a quick 10-minute break? Why don't we take a quick 10-minute break? We'll come back at 9 o'clock, okay? I'm going to resume at 9 o'clock.
So what you're going to do
just 10-minute break.
Yeah.
Dot, dot.
Essentially that. You just make a file name, whatever, .io, and it'll break that Dropbox.
So, Matt,
What's up?
have you done the hands-on test? One from last week?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, last week.
Yeah.
So, I'm not really sure that you can answer this because it's like technically help with the test, but it's not really. Did you mess with time span in your models?
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you heard of it?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't try using it there. I was through the rubric. It was very kind of like locked in about like how daytime and things were supposed to be.
Okay. Because I was thinking like, you know, the duration for the appointment, so I was like, oh, maybe they need to like a separate read-only property or something.
Yeah.
It's
Unfortunately,
probably just validation inside the controller.
yeah, that's I think what I well,
Yeah. But
yeah.
just the yap about it. Okay. Alright. That helps. I'll stop myself further down the rabbit hole.
Mr. G, I decided to drop down the rabbit hole of UI UX design.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like a rabbit hole.
I'm learning about design systems and
Uh-huh.
setting everything up basically in advance before you work, and I got the Figma browser or whatever it is, and
Figma has a browser?
yeah, they have like a
didn't know
like a
that.
tool for like wireframing and building websites now. But I tried using it and it was beyond my scope. I was like, I need more time to learn this.
his album on here. Okay, we are back. Alright, now we need a file. And the file has to have the extension draw.io. That's basically how you get started. So I'm going to say so what is the name of my project? This is a online course management system. GoodUniversity.draw.io. How about that? GoodUniversity.draw.io. Okay. So this is my UML diagram for Good University. Okay. That sounds terrible. Sounds like anyone's name in front of university doesn't sound like. Okay, moving on. I have done this once before where I have this drop down of entity relations. But that wasn't there by default. I think I had to click more shapes, and then I had to click on entity relation. So that, if that's not there, you need to click on that more shapes button. Yeah, what else is there?
I saw Bootstrap, there's iOS, mockups. I don't know if mockups is for like website design.
Okay.
Huh.
Bunch of other stuff. So as I expand that, I see tables. I see a list. And I see an entity. Okay, well, the entities will become tables. And this is an entity relationship diagram. So that makes sense. Here's my box. We now have a box. And this box has attributes. Now my AI is listening to me. And you hush up. Again, everything kind of has a meaning in these boxes. Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you change it to dark mode? It's in settings. Find your all day. You spent 24 hours looking for. We'll find it later. Okay. That's not highly important right now. So what are your entities? Again, your entities are your nouns. But these map to the names of your classes, right? In C#, your entities are your classes. And ultimately they become your tables. Now, because we're working with the built-in identity system, well, we're going to have, we actually didn't have to code a C# class for ASP.NET users, but suffice to say that is one of our tables. So it's going to be one of our relationships. It's one of the things we have as users. So I'm going to name my first entity ASP.NET users.
Now, I do have a question about that. Is it okay to just name it users, or does it have to say that?
Right. So can you refactor this? I'm going to keep it ASP.NET users, but I don't doubt that you could refactor it.
Okay.
It could be refactored to just users. Yeah.
Plus, you could have like another table linking, named users linking to the identity user.
Yes,
That
and
was what I was kind of.
so you can have a child relationship.
Yeah, like
where your users inherit. In fact, there's reason to do that because why might you do that? Well, ASP.NET Users has
Doesn't that fall under encapsulation, kind of?
encapsulation. Yeah, this is encapsulating the data.
Yeah, okay.
But inheritance is the other term that we're looking for. But you can kind of see the properties. Now, do you want to write down all of these columns? These are your columns, right? So what's important to us in our diagram? Well, your ID, capital ID. So first off, the name of the class goes in the first, up at the top. Okay, that's the name of the class. Underneath that, we got the plus sign. Remind me, plus from our UML days simply means public. Okay. What are the public? These map to our auto-implemented properties. Our auto-implemented properties are public string ID or public int ID or public GUID ID, whatever the data type is. It's not really clear to me what the data type is of ID unless sometimes in UML you put a colon here and then you could put int.
Put the data type.
You can include the data type here. Okay? Is that critical? Maybe for communication, maybe not. Depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a business user, they probably don't know what int or double or float is. If you're talking to a team of developers, it's very relevant, right? So who are you communicating with? For me, I don't care what your data, you don't have to include them for me. If you want to include them, feel free. So I would just include maybe, username. I'm going to take, and again, the plus means something. The colon means something, right? Colon separates the identifier from the data type. But I'm not going to say that. Okay, so then there's also username. Like such. And, okay, maybe we put email, which again, sometimes you log in with username, sometimes you store it separately than email. Okay. Paul mentioned maybe a little bit of inheritance going on here. I'm not going to do this, but we will. Actually, when it comes to that identity chapter, we will have inheritance. And I don't know that the inheritance arrow is going to be here. We're going to need an arrow pointing up. Something as simple as this can get the job done to show inheritance. Right? That's now okay. When you really get into these diagrams, there's arrows with closed heads, there's arrows with open heads. Is the head of the arrow shaded in is what I'm talking about. Okay, and there's actually a difference between that. But why might we create a users to inherit from ASP.NET Users? Yeah, Paul.
Like if there's some fields that you want the user to have that isn't there in an ASP.NET profile picture. Or
Yeah.
a username that's not an email.
Yeah, we might, you're going to notice, what if I wanted to store your first name? That's not actually built in. Created at. Whatever, any data that's about your users that you don't have in here, okay, so we can create this users that inherits from ASP.NET Users that it stores additional information and like that. Okay, and that's the benefit of inheritance. Okay, not the point of this demonstration though. Now, this is a pretty simple, to show the one-to-many and the many-to-many, this is a simple thing to walk through. But I do have a question on how I want to show this here. And I'm going to go to my AI to help me with this. So you can see ASP.NET Users and there's roles. And And then there's user roles, okay? So let's talk about this. What are these? This is a many-to-many. A user can have many roles, and a role can have many users. Okay, so between user and roles is a many-to-many relationship. And then, as we've learned, you don't want many-to-manys, so you create a join table, which is this one right here. ASP.NET user roles. This one right here. Okay, the ASP.NET user roles is how you link a user to their role. Okay, so that's the built-in system, how you're going to have users with roles and link them to their roles. Okay, okay, so I'm going to tell Gemini. Okay, so I'm going to build this. I'm going to use the built-in ASP.NET users, comma, ASP.NET roles, comma, and ASP.NET user roles to define the student and teacher roles for my users. How can I integrate those into a UML diagram? In other words, so here's my users with their IDs. Here's their roles. User ID and role ID. This is the join table, right? So here's the three tables that are built in. Course enrollment has many students. But where is student defined? Because a student is an ASP.NET user with a role. Student ID, course ID, yes, I get that, I get that, I get that. So ASP.NET users, one user has many course enrollments. Okay, so let's go down. Explanation. Okay, so this is the built-in ASP.NET users. These are your roles. Built-in roles table. Oh, this represents, so the roles represents the table. So if I have a student role, so you're just mapping directly from users to course enrollment and users to course. It doesn't even matter. Their roles. Okay. So what I'm noticing here is we're just going to map directly from users to course enrollment and from users into course and roles. This is already there. So the point is we just map directly. In other words, we link. The relationship is going to be directly between users and course, right? So it's still users and course. The relationship actually doesn't change. A user can have many courses and a course can have many users. So that relationship doesn't change. And that makes sense. And a course, okay. Perfect. So let's begin to draw this. So an ASP.NET user to course. So again, where I'm going to start here, is I'm just going to bring on another entity. Okay, and when it comes to the course, we're going to have course ID, course title, description. We're going to have an instructor ID. So a single instructor, and now I'm just looking ahead. Again, I mentioned this. We're going to have a list of users. So I'm going to have it here. Shouldn't my course class have a, yes,
If the user can have many courses, right?
yep.
The user is gonna have a list of courses. Why would the list of courses be in the user's table?
It would be. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Oh,
Yeah. So my course should have a list of users.
no, that is because it's doing it like that, you know,
Yeah.
trying to do the designs and it's having me put that in my design.
It says, yes, you've raised an excellent point that highlights a common design consideration in ORM. It might seem intuitive to have a list of users within your course, but generally it's not the most efficient or semantically correct. Yeah, and so so it's basically saying you don't want a many-to-many is what it's saying. And that's kind of what they're suggesting up here is they have the join table again. So users can have many courses and a course can have many users. So you need the join table, which is course enrollment. And then, I don't know, I don't think it actually, because I've done it many times where I actually put the list in there and it works just fine. I don't think it's going to break anything.
When I did it like that, remember my letter from my topic, it wasn't fine. And I think it was because I never had that joint table.
Yeah, you didn't have the join table. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so back to the diagram here. So we got a many-to-many here, and these lines matter. And so I don't even see the many-to-many. Okay. Okay. So essentially what we have here is something like this. And this is not where it's going to remain. This is called crow's foot notation. So you guys look at my lines for me. Everyone see what we got going on. So the way this reads from left to right. See the little vertical line? This little 1. Okay, so one user on the left has see the 3 lines right there, the crow's foot as they call it. One user can have many courses. So the little 3 means many, right? So one user, so you ask from each direction, one user can have many courses. And then vice versa, you get the single line here on the right-hand side. That means one course. And then going the other direction has many users. So there's your many to many. One user has many courses. One course has many users. Again, this is called cardinality. This is considered a bad design, right? You are taught for efficiency reasons to not have many to manys. And you introduce a third table called a join table, okay? And in the case of mine, right, that is what they're calling the course enrollment. Now, so if I drag on another entity here, for the sake of my understanding your join tables, all right, I'm going to ask everyone to name their join tables. Course enrollment makes sense, right? I think that's a good table name. Yeah.
Are we supposed to be like doing like the same chart as you're doing right now with like the same topic, or?
No, you're going to have your own topic. You're going to build your own, right? So I'm just showing the process, and then you'll be building your own.
So what would this table be? You just said it.
What would these these entities right here,
Yeah.
they map to the tables.
Okay.
Okay. So when a user takes a course, it makes sense to have a course enrollment, and what's in there? You have its own unique enrollment ID. What is the enrollment ID then? What is enrollment ID in this table?
Wouldn't it be a
Primary key.
Yeah.
It is the primary key because every row will have just an auto incrementing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 enrollment ID. Course ID comes from the course table. Okay, so if you have courses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the course ID in course enrollment can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You cannot have a course 6. Course 6, course ID does not exist. Yes.
So if we're doing it for our individual topics, are we gonna be right now doing some? Should we be writing something different? Not like words.
You don't have to be doing anything right now, other than just following along.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you. You will be creating your own, so if you want to start working on it, you can.
Making a replica of this so I can see it for later.
Notice here that student ID, this is also a foreign key. That is essentially linking to this ID right here. Okay, so question for you guys. Everyone, here's a question. I want everyone to kind of think about the answer. Answer this in your head. Don't answer it out loud. Okay. See my course has a course ID. Primary key. Notice I have course ID as a foreign key down here. You see the names match? Course ID primary key, course ID foreign key. The names match. Do the names have to match? I mean, it's just a guess. Just take your guess. Yes or no? Do the names have to match? Some guess yes, some guess no. They actually do not have to match. The names do not have to match. When you're actually writing SQL statements, you tell it what table name links to what column name, and it's a very explicit line of code to say that this name maps to this primary key. This foreign key column maps to this primary key column. The names don't have to match. So what I'm noticing right here, student ID, well, that's going to relate to your ASP.NET users. It's just called ID here. It's a string in this case, and it's a string right here. But you have to realize, where is that primary key existing, right? Student ID, at the end of the day, and I kind of went through this, comes from ASP.NET users. And these users have a role. So, so we have an enrollment ID. What does this say? If Jamisha is a student, AWD 1115 is a course. Course enrollment 1, course ID of 1 is this course, and Jamisha is student ID of 1. Paul is student ID of 2. So Paul is my second user. Still course number 1. Enrollment ID is now 2. Course ID is 1. Student ID is 2. That's Paul. Is everyone following that relationship and how those work? So now that we have this new table, this is called the join table, or it's got different names. I just call it the join table. What we've created now is a one-to-many between these two tables and a one-to-many between these two tables. So let's find the right symbols. Okay. Now what do these symbols mean? Notice what it said when I hovered over that is one mandatory. Meaning it's not 0 or 1 users, because that's the other option. It could be 0 users can have a course enrollment. No, you need a user to have a course enrollment. So it's not 0 or 1. There are types of relations. 0 or 1 things can have 0 or many other, 1 or many other things. So this says one user can have 0 or 0 too many course enrollments. Now, can you register without enrolling? I mean, probably. Depends on, I guess, the school. Depends on the business. But in this case, you have one user, and that user can have 0 or many enrollments. So that's a one-to-many.
Do you have that mandatory tag like on username, or is it both on username and
This was one mandatory to many optional.
yeah, but like for the mandatory and to ask the users, is the line connected to username or email?
It's just connected to the box. It's not connected to a property. It's just the table to this table.
It's just there.
Yeah. All right, now we got to ask, okay. Again, you're going to have one course. One course can have many course enrollments. So I think it's going to be the same relationship. You just got to think about it going each way. So here's, yes, you're going to need one course. And man, sometimes getting these lines to be pretty, like look at this. This is weird to me. This is not my...
You have to attach it to the other one first, or else it won't, like,
What's up, Kieran?
you have to attach it to the other one first, and then it'll snap.
Attach it to the other one first?
Yeah.
So maybe
Well, no,
it...
to both of them, like, at the same time, otherwise it's gonna look weird.
Both of them at the same time?
Yeah,
Link-
you have
link
to,
the
you have to
entities.
connect them.
Like actually make them touch.
You drive. Come here. Show me what you do.
You just
Take my mouse. Come here. I don't know what you're talking about. Come here.
So you just have to complete the connection, just like you're connecting course ID. Yeah.
Well, it's got to be the other way, though. The many has to go over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'll snap. That looks nice.
I only get one snap.
That's what I was going for.
Yep.
What did I do wrong?
Oh, you didn't connect them.
Only
You
one
did
of them.
have to
Yeah,
set
you
it.
had it like that.
Okay. So we're going to connect the many side, and then we're going to connect the one side. See? And then it does that.
It has to connect to the sides. If it's not connected to the course enrollment one.
Oh, it's not actually connected to course.
It's like glow green whenever you get like the right connection.
Oh, like that. I need it to go green.
Why is it doing the inside though? That's weird.
I needed it to go green.
Yeah, it's because you have to connect it to both.
I was close, but I wasn't connected.
Yeah.
Today I learned. So we have now solved for my many-to-many relationship with a join table on my diagram. Okay? I have my ASP.NET users table, and I have a many-to-many. Okay, that's broken down with a join table. Now, what do you call that join table?
It's a junction table, isn't it?
Thank you. A join table. I mean, what's the name of it? Here it makes perfect sense. Call it course enrollment. Okay? A lot of times you see it this ASP.NET users course.
Yeah, where you just pair the names.
You just pair the names together. That's right. I'm okay. I actually like this because it's very clearly now I can see this as a join table. Like I like this naming convention. But course enrollment actually makes more common sense. Right? Course enrollment makes more common sense. And you can name your tables just go ahead and name it what makes common sense. Okay? Don't follow the convention of naming it ASP.NET users course. Even though, I mean, to me, because I got to grade this, so it's like, oh, very clearly the join table. But that's fine. Yes?
Quick question. So the line connecting to course enrollment and course, how did you reverse that? Like I clicked on the reverse button, doesn't really did what that did.
So what I did, what I was doing incorrectly, Liam, is I was getting it kind of like close like this, but see how it's blue? You actually, to connect it, to make a good connection, you got to wait till it gets green. See that?
Well, I think
Now it's,
I think it can also be blue.
it can be blue?
I think before you just weren't getting an outline.
I wasn't getting an outline at all.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, if it's green, green works.
Yeah.
Does blue also work? Maybe. But if you're not getting any color, that was the problem I was having. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Now, even that's... There we go. That's just something I wasn't familiar with this program. Okay, see, what else do we need then? Because according to this rubric, we also need well, we kind of technically have a one-to-many relationship, but no, it's not. It's a many-to-many that's broken down. So let's add a one-to-many relationship. Okay, because like I said, this will be coded very differently. Like when you actually go to build the web application, like right now, this is all database design. But when you actually build the web application and we're talking about MVC and bringing this all together, these two things are coded very differently in the web application sense. So now we need our one-to-many, go back to here. And again, courses to students. We already talked about the many-to-many. And then it said this is a one-to-many. Instructors to courses. So there's an instructor to courses. Courses then to lessons. Instructor to courses. Course to lessons. Okay, a course can have many lessons. So that's what we're missing. We're missing the course to lessons. Well, maybe lessons is another name for assignments. One course can have many assignments. This actually gets... If you could do the many-to-many, doing this quite easy. So here's my lesson. Notice that my lesson belongs to one course. That's our foreign key. So we're going to have a lesson. You could call it an assignment. Let's call it an assignment. Okay, notice the convention of my primary keys all have kind of like the name of the entity followed by ID. So this is the entity is the assignment ID is the primary key. Course ID is the foreign key. The assignment title, maybe, you know, we have different types, assignment types. You know, what is the important information about our assignments? Maybe a grade, you know, but then, okay, well, that's between your users. A user can have many assignments, but an assignment can only belong to one user. So we might need a relationship between users and assignments. Okay, so let's finish our relationship between course and assignment. So we're going to need one mandatory, one to many. Let's find that one. One mandatory to that's close, but I actually want the other one that's 0. Many optional to many mandatory. I'm going the wrong way. I just want this line. Copy this line, paste that line, drag that over here. So one course is needed. That one course can have many assignments. Still kind of funny. Actually, blue seemed to work better on that one. See that? That's a clean line. And I had to go blue for me to do that. One course can have many assignments. Now, if you want your user to belong to an assignment, well, then that's easy. This is going to be student ID. So we're going to add a student ID foreign key. Whoa. Why'd you go black? Change my font color. Let's copy you and paste. And just change this to student ID. Font color white. Font color white. Student ID. Basic control of font color. And then I just need one more. One user can have many assignments. So there's another one-to-many. And again, this is not what the assignment calls for, but it makes common sense that a user can have many assignments. Let's get it to go blue here.
There's a way you can tell, like, if it's in blue. So, like, the reason why I keep this, like, doing, like, an S shape is because it's the y-axis. If it, like, goes over its other end, it would go into, like, an S shape, so it would be confused. So it has to be, like, you can't cross that line, you know what I mean? I'm trying to explain this as best as I can.
That's fine. I got it. To do what I want. So okay. Can your UML diagrams be as simple as this? Yes. It shows a many-to-many. It shows a join table, ASP.NET users, a separate one-to-many. Okay. And at minimum, this is what I'm asking for. Was this a helpful exercise?
I think so.
I feel like I still need to learn more about that and all this.
So now you guys work on your UML diagrams, submit updates. Let's talk about it. Yeah, Paul.
So a many-to-many is required for the final project, right? Can we have user roles just to build that required?
No, because I want you to have the full experience of coding the web app of a many-to-many relationship. So you might have to get creative a little bit because that's all handled for you, and I want you to have the pleasure.
So are there many reasons to use, not no pun intended necessarily, but like, is there many reasons to use a many to many?
It's just what, yes, I mean, the reasons,
Is this like a login type thing?
this right here is the login system. And so the question is, what are the real world use cases of many-to-manys? And it's like, they're just relationships between things. And so there's an infinite number of many-to-many relationships in the real world. And so we're just diagramming them to then build software around those. So what's the real world use case? And it's like, there's infinite.
I'm just trying to think like the logistics behind it, and I know there's like, I know I guess that the lines can teach me something, but like it's mostly like how to like envisioning it onto the website, knowing what it's gonna look like.
Don't even think about the website yet. Just think about the things that are important, the data that's important to collect for your website. Okay, so let's talk about this assignment. Literally, as of right now, your assignment for this weekend is to simply give me an updated ERD. Okay. What I'm going to do probably is give you guys some time today to work on them, and then we're going to look at each other's ERDs and critique each other's ERDs. Ask questions about each other's ERDs. Okay, so I'll stop here, and you guys can go to work. Yeah. Timestamp for